Have you ever seen those birdhouses, garden gnome, little decorations and thought, wow, someone could live here? I guess if you watch the borrowers, you would understand. Anyway, I'm here to tell you that's 100% real if you play this game. Archives of Trevosa is a point-and-click detective game, hence the Sherlocky outfit. And the whole premise is you, as a human, are asked by one of the tiny little kings, hey, we need you to read through these documents. We need you to figure out who's this true heir. Now, in their garden gnome land, they do have their own language and customs. It's been somewhat translated for your convenience, but some words aren't. So you have to find out what these words mean through context clues. It's like doing a really big DBQ. It did take me 2 hours. When it started to give me hints, I knew, damn. It's also really fun. So I'm not going to spoil the entire game for you. I just kind of want to discuss the concept of this, the geopolitical state of this world right now. Because what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And I think that part is as fun to discover as discovering all their names, but you can't finish the game without knowing all their names. This may be a help in discovering some of the things if you want to play this game. I'll leave a link for it in the description. But if you don't, I feel like this still gives you enough of the meat to have fun with this analysis situation, because the ethics, the concerns, the themes. What would you do if the rightful heir to your throne is decided by 3 generations back, their rules of succession based off the laws of the land, and if anything deviates from that, sorry, yeah, we're killing you. What a world. So first, I want to introduce you to some of the mechanics. You are going to shift through so many words, and I'm only going to give you definitions for words you need to know. These are going to be some of the ones you first show up in. They kind of don't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's not going to help you solve much. It's just going to give you context. First is salam, or salam. There's not a pronunciation guide, so we're going to assume based on how it's written. Anyway, it means human. You are human. You're technically a figure. They pray. They have seers, and they get visions. You know, if like ants had perception of human beings, not as, you know, big thing, kill, and more of big thing, love. So you as a human being are somewhat integral to their culture, but also not, because it's like more of a I hope one of them fucking steps on you scenario. And also seerdom and their land. Okay, so there's a kingdom, but it operates in the way I imagine. This may make sense to some of you. You know how when they have fairy books and they're like, this is the court of yada yada yada. That's how it kind of seems, because there are 3 great families which are just kind of major houses. Not everyone is like bigly related if they're in the same house. They could be 18th cousins 15 times removed. You have 3. They are Varlin, which is, it's like clan, family, yada yada yada. Kind of like how the Tudors kind of situation. And when we see in the game, there are portraits, so this is not going to be shocking, but they are color-coded. You have the Yoret, which is all the green portraits, Esten, which is the purple portraits, and
Time off.
The blue portraits. Now, this is just from my understanding. This is from my interpretation. It kind of feels like Esten is one of the biggest families, and the Tamoth, whichever, kind of feels like if you decided a family was the enemy because they are powerful, but they are also, as you will find out, majorly exiled. And anyone who agrees with this specific branch of the family, you're gone too. And what are they exiled to? That's a great question, but we have to get into the kingdoms first. The kingdoms are the open and hollow places, which is where the Esten have their domain over, which is why I feel like they're probably one of the biggest, because that just is such a vague description. It's like, yeah, you're the family of places with 4 walls. That's a lot of places. Then there's the Yoret, which is the crevices and pathways, which they kind of sneak into the family. Obviously, there's only 3, so they're going to get in there somehow. But the way they get in does feel connected to their domain. And then Talmuth is on the edge of the kingdom. In my mind's eye, it is just someone's garden. Fairy houses, bird houses, and then the fence. That's what I'm imagining. But there is, most importantly, a field of beasts. Now, when I first played this, it wasn't until rewatching my own VOD, because I did stream this. See, I know they said these are made of words, but I don't know if they're actually made of words. And I don't know if I'm just fucking up something I should know. Whoa. Okay. What the fuck? Stuff like. But I fully just thought this was like a random fantasy kingdom. Didn't realize they were just tiny people. So I fully thought there's just random ass monsters. They're not monsters. We get a catalog of them, which we're gonna kind of want to know because it makes some of the wars and family lore a little bit funny. There is Ifest, a spreedy creature with wings, mostly harmless, but will eat food that is not protected. I'm assuming a bird, maybe a butterfly. A sea lot, which digs blindly into the earth. Useless, I'm assuming a worm, maybe earthworm. Asset, size of a thievel, soft fur, very clever. There's perhaps opportunity to use these someday. Do I know what this one is? Not really. Maybe some sort of bug. A caterpillar, maybe. I don't remember because I don't remember what Thievel means. Then there's the F set, which is no arms or legs, only spine, scales, and teeth. Too large and dangerous. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming maybe snake. And then, most importantly, this is the only really important one that's going to happen because there are wars with this creature. The Fanat. Small but unflinching with great strength and many legs, capable of great coordination. In my mind, that's a centipede. These are going to take a key part into some coming wars because they do have an entire system.
So they do have one given ruler at any given time, and this ruler is the Sinai or Sini. I don't exactly know how you pronounce it. It's a gendered term. There's a Sinoi and Sinai AI, depending on if it's masculine or feminine. There's also some who use just the neutral term, so hurrah, diversity win, your evil regent is non-binary, yay. And with that, of who's determined to be the ruler at any given time, it follows the rules of succession, which follows the rules of the land, shown here. I don't know how I would describe that to you. And much like the Avatar state of earth, fire, air, water, just if they chose it themselves and would act crazy if it was not, chosen. And maybe it's true that that's what makes their whole life fall out of balance. But we also don't know that. It's basically like divine right of kings. Oh my God, you didn't follow the word of God. He's coming, and not like we failed to rule this place, so now the consequences of that are coming to us. And within the divine right of kings, it follows basic fantasy royalty rules, normally the firstborn. But if someone else gets married before you and has an heir before you, they get the throne instead of you. And also, if you can't have heirs, you don't get the throne either. Shit like that.
Because they have set the system up, you start seeing sibling fracture. In what universe would you not get married? If you're the firstborn, they're like, yeah, of course, you'll be the ruler. But then someone else gets married before you. Now you're mad, and they have kids, and they're like, yeah, crazy how that works. Ruler now. I'd be pissed too. And you will see that throughout generations. There are sibling rivalries. There are also cousin rivalries, but most importantly, the biggest rivalry is the Talmoth and everybody else. Now, it's important to know, Talmoth, really big family. So they have a lot of branches. And some of those branches are in the royal family, and they even get leadership sometimes. But there is the major branch that, in the beginning of when they united these 3 families, were exiled. We don't really know why. At least I did not find why. We know that the main person who got exiled, his name is Fief. And this happened right around the wedding of one of his family members and the coming queen, or Sinai. Translation, whichever. So, these 3 families get united by this marriage. The Yoret don't really play part into this. He's mostly the first generation there. He's mostly just the advisor. But who does get married is a Talmoth and an Eston. And who's mad about this? Fief, the exiled one, and all his family members, they can hear the wedding. They can hear the wedding, they can hear the celebrations. They are in the field of beasts, which I can only imagine is past a garden gate. So they can hear it. They are in exile for generations. They eventually learn how to coexist with some of these beasts, how to use them. And that is where we get a bit of a war. Because one of them is like, okay, we can use these beasts. That is where we get our catalog of beasts. In that list that I gave off when he's like, this is useless, I don't know how we can use that. There's also an added one in the Fanat, which is, with our training, I believe these will be key to retaking Trevosa. His family line wants to retake it. And of course, this person is Noveth. And he is kind of just regular exilement. He's just the one dedicated. There's nothing really especially he's connected to Fief. I think probably great-grandson or just grandson. It's one of the two. Because his mother had run into some previous generations, because they can explore into the field of beasts in Trevosa. They can go out and go explore, because they always need food, they always need stuff like that. They need construction materials. They're builder people. And they can run into those people and they're just like, hey, just give us rations. We hate you. We hate your family. Rations, please. And so we run into his mother, and it's like not much. It's just kind of, we're told lies about their family, they're told lies about ours. As all great family feuds are. Where did it start from? Who knows? Our only main detail is that in some letters to Fief is that he's referenced as bitter and cruel. Was he just not given the sense of power that he wanted? Was he an abusive piece of shit? I don't know. He gets exiled, and that's just how it starts. Doesn't really matter. What matters, how it ends. And that is with Noveth taking the beast and using that to go into the kingdom. But he wouldn't be able to get into the kingdom unless someone left the gate open. And who would do that? Now we must get back to the rules of succession. What happens if the only heir from the living ruler is not blood related? The Sinai at the time, she has an adopted child. Her name is Caldoza. They're like, yes, this is our heir. We want her to rule the kingdom next. But obviously, because these rules of succession are like,
ooh, yeah, no, you have to be blood related. Sorry.
It goes to her siblings, which is why we talked about those sibling rivalries earlier. It went to her sibling and their child. And that sibling, his partner, has a vision and is like, oh fuck. One of our family members is going to betray us. Open the great threshold. I'm assuming like a gate. They're going to open the gate. The field of beasts will be upon us. We will no longer be ruling. And they're just like, bam. That's crazy. I wonder who would do that. It's almost as if we just told these people that their heir is no longer allowed to be the heir because they have tainted blood. You know, their blood's just not really to ours. And I mean, yeah, they did try while ruling to punish people who did that, but we're family and we did it. So, womp womp. The living ruler has her heirs titled, not necessarily stripped, but any claim that she has to the throne is just like, yeah, not happening, babe. And so, when Noveth is like, hey, I know they just kind of went around your claim there. What if I married you? I get a little bit of a hold to the throne, and what your parents deeply wanted was to see you on the throne. Two birds, one stone, and they get married. And how no one thought this would go badly, I don't know. Not badly for, Noveth. Time of his fucking life. Him and Caldoza, his wife. Great time for them. But how no one in the royal family thought, damn, this might go bad. After the prophecy happens, none of you can put context clues together. Obviously, after the living ruler dies and then the crown is passed on, the ruler's husband is still wanting his daughter on the throne because, damn, it was hers. It was hers in the first place. These fake bitches just stole it in his mind. So he's like, actually, hey, Noveth. And it's not really clear if this happens before or after the wedding, but it certainly happens, whichever way. And he's like, I'm going to open that damn gate. You take back Trevosa. If I get to see my daughter on the throne, that is all I want.
Editing me here. I actually don't know if it's before the wedding or even before the proposal. I think it would be like a legendary strat play to, forgive the blurriness, this is from my phone, But a legendary strat here would be opening the gate, letting the usurper in to let him take over, so then you can propose your daughter so that she could be on the throne. Would that not be a legendary strat? I don't know. Would that not be legendary? I feel like that's a good play. I feel like that's definitely a royal person play to make. I just don't know if it's that or if it was an already, wedding ceremony like right before he does it. I don't know. I feel like the one before would make sense. But I don't know. But I don't know the timeline of all the events, barring big stuff. So, yeah. Something to think about.
Maybe it's a level of grief or a level of protection to his wife, because both him and his wife agreed with the marriage in the first place, and I can only imagine that happening because the next heir was named and it was not their daughter. And then as soon as his wife died, they have to go into action to keep his daughter in a stable position, in something with power. And we can get into the ethics of that in a minute. But he opens a great threshold. Trevosa is usurped. And this lasts one generation. Their child, much like their father, intends to use the beast. But they don't do it very correctly, very impractical. So everyone's like, no more throne for you. So they exile them. This family and being exiled is it just keeps happening. And they give the throne to the original line. They're like, yeah, just restore Trevosa. But, the problems next are food. We don't have any. And, attacks from some of these beasts. And so the families do have to eventually come together. Distant lines. They have to put those grievances aside to actually let the kingdom thrive in the first place. And it takes generations to get to that point. There's still a lot of grievances there, but they have to put some to the side. Once they put those grievances to the side and they actually start exploring their land, going through chasms maybe to get food, just to explore, they find a scepter. And it is clearly from the previous ruler. And when looking back on the rules of succession, the usurper of the usurper, no true line to the throne, because it should have always been the adopted heir who that was the claim to the throne. That was exactly who, according to the rules of succession, which I think follows the family lines of who would have to have it, it would have to go to them. It would have to go to them. But they're like, no, we're not giving this up. We know who's in charge now. It's us. So this is where they're like, no, we're gonna hide it. But it does catch wind to the current heir to Trevosa, the current Snow, the current ruler. And they're like, hey human, could you read this and tell me who it is? And I can only imagine I don't know fully why this would be left to human business, but I'm assuming it is because of some religious propriety of the giant things. Just, what's your opinions on this great, tall thing? And obviously we're like, well, hey, it's definitely for your cousin, babe. And immediately they're like, fuck, okay. I'm giving up the throne. May this bring back balance and order in the land. But here's my analysis. So far, the line of royalty and the rules of succession have truly only harmed them. The only thing that has brought them together has been using the beast, and as families coming together, because they're suffering, they're starving, there's not enough food. All of them coming together to work together, putting aside everything, and almost all having a level of authority to actually explore, get the food, and use the beast to get resources, was the only time they actually managed to prosper. They had their era of restoration, but that was just taking the kingdom back and just bringing it out of wartime. That was just peace. What does peace do if everyone's suffering still? I think, genuinely, the ethics of royalty, even with these little fairy people, is ultimately that no matter what, none of these people should really have it. It is tearing siblings apart. The rules of succession are already set up for failure. At a certain point, maybe we rework the system, because truly, is there ever going to be a good king? According to these family lines, not really. Because no one is helping the other families who have been exiled, and if they no longer agree with the branches of families that obviously they've been born into, they're just kind of stuck into this field of beasts, monsters, that they can't exactly get out of. They need rations. They're just wandering, and they're just like that for centuries. How is that right? Even past the war and rebellion, they still look at this one specific family and are like, yeah, you may be like a distant 18th, 20th cousin 18 million times removed. You are of that family, huh? Maybe we don't like you. And obviously when it comes into adoption and not having blood relatives, there's also a level of blood supremacy there. I don't know if I would call it eugenics, but it's definitely a level of, if you're connected to this line, you are supreme to your siblings. You are chosen. You will bring balance to this land. It doesn't have the exact religious level of divine right of kings, but it definitely has a level to it. Like I said, imagine being told every day, like, hey, we've chosen you for the throne. Like, this, you are the heir to our throne. Hey. And then someone gets married, has a kid, and they're like, yeah, no, ours now. The real question is not who's at fault for taking it. It is, why does it exist in this system in the first place? How has this actually helped Trevosa? And, as the residential human looking through their history and their archives, do you need an upper ruling class? Do you? Let's think about that. Has it helped anyone? Like, who has it helped to have this? I'm sure it's great that you guys aren't all fighting all the time because you've decided one person's gonna rule, but there are implications of who is supreme in that, and obviously if you're still fighting, I mean, you're beneath us, so why would it matter? Do they need it? Do they need it? I argue no. I argue the best thing they can do is bring the families together and maybe have like a group council situation, because the rules of succession already don't matter that much to them if they're just like, oh, we're gonna ignore that. And it's not, I guess you could argue that they did by going out of line of rules of succession that caused the starving and the famine, but it was building up to it the entire time. Maybe it's too much to ask just to rework your entire governmental system. Can you guys not get like parliament? You have a royal family going on, parliament, Congress, something. Let's get some checks and balances in here. You get all three family members into an advising table. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be awesome? Because you can get the inventors, you can get the people who are great with the beasts, you can get everybody. Wouldn't that be much better than the alternative of one above all, and then if it don't work, it don't work? I feel like maybe you'd avoid a lot. Because maybe there shouldn't be a true heir or a false heir. Maybe we shouldn't have heirs at all. Maybe. Just maybe. It's bad to have a ruling class with no checks and balances. Barring one guy in a museum at one point in time. Basically, Magna Carta that bitch. Because for one, lying to the subjects, lying to these people about the rules of succession because you want to keep yourself in power, well, oof. At the very best, the one who understands that, oh, the rules of succession, according to this, it shouldn't be me, I will pass over the throne. That is a level of, humility, sensibility. However, to the ruling families, I don't know if any of that fixes the institution that is fundamentally what is causing the problem. The institution itself is what led to the exilement in the first place, that made it so there is a false or not false heir. Maybe we get checks and balances, because unfortunately the usurper's heir wouldn't be usurped in the first place if there was checks and balances in their system either. See what it would fix? You see what it would fix? Almost everything. That's just my advice. Maybe we get rid of the system. Maybe we fix this institution, so we don't have to worry about false heirs or not false heirs. Just my suggestion. Anyway, I really liked this game. If not obvious, I have thought about this game a lot since I played it. I really did like it. It was a really fun 2 hours for me. It was confusing as fuck, but once I started getting stuff correct, it was like, yay! And I really recommend you guys play it. I know it's also based on root trees. I've never played that. I might check it out. The point and click of just, I've got to read this, I'm gonna have to that is very fun for me, and I liked having to put the context clues together. Now, obviously, I haven't told you a lot of people's names, and I've just used descriptions, so that when you play this yourself, you actually have to play, because I do recommend it. There's probably some context and other lore I've left out by accident, by virtue of not wanting to spoil everything, but I really want to talk about the institutions and... How did she do that? Basically, the institutions and everything in power, because the world building of this is very fun. Truly. Very fun concepts. Fun thinking that I have to do. It really helps reset my brain after scrolling on TikTok for 10 hours. I really had to think. And a lot of it was just me going, oh, I don't know. Can you just tell me if I'm right? You know, and I think we all need those. I think, let's bring back DBQs. I think that's a good note to leave on. Let's bring back DBQs. If you like videos like this, you can subscribe and like and comment and I'll know to do more. If you don't, I guess you could tell me too, for algorithm purposes, but I don't need to know that. I did stream this game, so if you want to watch me live or anything, I do stream it live at Twitch. Nanny-ho! I think that's gonna be it for today's video. I also upload all the VODs. I will be making a playlist of all my live streams so you can see them on this channel too. I'm currently going through and doing Minecraft TikTok tutorials so I can make a swap kingdom. Not with kings, because that would be hypocritical after everything I've said. Totally. Alright, bye!